In everyday life, most people believe explaining themselves is a sign of honesty, clarity, and maturity. When misunderstood, the natural instinct is to correct the situation. When questioned, the impulse is to justify decisions. When challenged, people often rush to defend their intentions. It feels reasonable. It feels respectful. But from a psychological and strategic perspective, constantly explaining yourself can reduce your influence rather than strengthen it. It can weaken your authority, expose your vulnerabilities, and quietly shift control into someone else's hands. True power is not always expressed through words. Often, it is communicated through restraint, composure, and controlled silence. This is the deeper principle behind the idea that the more you explain yourself, the less powerful you appear. Explaining versus communicating. There is a clear difference between communication and justification. Communication provides necessary information. Justification seeks approval. When people over-explain their choices, they often do so not to share clarity but to protect their image. They want to avoid judgment. They want to be understood. They want others to agree with their reasoning. This creates a subtle psychological shift. Instead of standing firmly in their decisions, they begin negotiating their identity and actions. Their focus moves from confidence in their position to concern about how others perceive them. Once this happens, the balance of power changes. The moment you feel compelled to defend every decision, you signal that external validation matters more than personal conviction. Others quickly recognize this dynamic, consciously or unconsciously, and adjust their behavior accordingly. Why over-explaining reveals weakness? Every explanation reveals information. It shows what matters to you, what pressures you, and what influences your behavior. It exposes emotional triggers, priorities, and insecurities. From a psychological standpoint, this information creates predictability, and predictability makes people easier to influence. When others understand exactly why you act a certain way, they gain insight into how to persuade, pressure, or manipulate you. They learn what arguments work, what emotions affect you, and where your boundaries are flexible. Power, however, thrives on uncertainty. When your reactions are predictable, your influence decreases. When your behavior is difficult to read, your presence carries more weight. The psychology of mystery and perception. Human beings are naturally uncomfortable with uncertainty. When information is missing, the mind attempts to fill the gap. People analyze, speculate, and interpret behavior when explanations are not provided. This process creates psychological tension, and tension often increases perceived authority. Silence forces observers to think. It encourages them to assign meaning to your actions rather than receiving a ready-made explanation. In many cases, they assume stronger motives or greater confidence than actually exists. This is why individuals who speak less often appear more decisive, more composed, and more powerful. Mystery invites attention. Constant explanation invites scrutiny. How over-explaining weakens boundaries. Consider a simple situation. You decline a request. If someone asks you for a favor and you respond with a long explanation, "I'm busy, I have other commitments, maybe another time," you unintentionally open the door for negotiation. Your explanation provides material for counter-arguments. They may offer alternatives, suggest solutions, or challenge your reasoning. What began as a clear refusal becomes a discussion. However, a firm and simple response creates a different outcome. A direct decision without justification leaves little room for pressure or persuasion. The same principle applies in many areas of life. The more reasons you provide, the more opportunities others have to challenge those reasons. Strong boundaries require clarity, not excessive explanation. Why people feel the need to explain. The urge to explain often comes from fear of rejection, conflict, or negative judgment. From an early age, people are taught that being misunderstood is a problem that must be corrected. They learn to justify their choices to maintain social harmony and acceptance. They associate approval with safety. As a result, silence can feel uncomfortable. It can feel rude or risky. But psychological strength involves tolerating this discomfort. It involves accepting that not everyone needs to understand your decisions. When individuals become comfortable with misunderstanding, they become harder to manipulate. Silence as a strategic tool. Silence is not absence of communication. It is a form of communication. When someone confronts you and you respond calmly without over-explaining, you shift the dynamic. Instead of reacting to their pressure, you observe their behavior. Their response reveals their intentions, emotional stability, and motives. People reveal more about themselves when they are uncertain than when they are comfortable. They may become defensive, aggressive, persuasive, or anxious. These reactions provide valuable insight. Strategic silence therefore functions as both protection and observation. It shields your position while revealing the psychology of others. Confidence versus justification. Confidence rarely needs explanation. People naturally trust individuals who appear certain of their decisions. Even when the reasoning is unknown, decisive behavior signals competence and stability. Conversely, excessive justification suggests doubt. When someone constantly explains their actions, listeners may interpret this as insecurity. They may assume the decision requires defense because it lacks strength. This perception matters more than logical accuracy. In social dynamics, confidence often influences judgment more than detailed reasoning. This does not mean decisions should lack thought. It means confidence in those decisions should not depend on constant validation. The cost of seeking approval. A hidden danger of over-explaining is that it creates dependence on approval. When individuals constantly clarify their intentions, they prioritize how they are perceived over what they believe. This gradually weakens autonomy. Decisions become shaped by external reactions rather than internal values. Over time, identity itself becomes negotiable. Boundaries soften. Authority diminishes. Others begin to feel entitled to question, evaluate, and influence every choice. True independence requires freedom from this cycle. The strength of emotional control. Maintaining composure when misunderstood requires emotional discipline. It requires resisting the impulse to correct every false assumption or defend every action. This discipline strengthens psychological resilience. It demonstrates self-control and stability under pressure. It also communicates that external opinions do not determine your direction. Emotional control has long been associated with leadership, influence, and personal power. Those who remain calm under scrutiny command greater respect than those who react defensively. When explanation is necessary. This principle does not suggest avoiding communication entirely. In professional environments, teamwork, and relationships, clarity is essential. Effective communication builds trust and cooperation. The key distinction lies in motivation. Explain when information improves understanding or collaboration. Avoid explaining when the purpose is simply to defend your image or seek approval. Strategic communication shares what is necessary. Over-explanation shares what is unnecessary, reducing the habit of over-explaining. Breaking the habit requires conscious practice. A useful starting point is reducing unnecessary explanations. Respond directly. Pause before answering questions. Provide decisions without extensive justification. Short responses often communicate more strength than long ones. They reflect certainty and clarity. Another helpful approach is becoming comfortable with silence. Allow conversations to end without filling every gap. Let others interpret your actions without correcting every assumption. Over time, this builds confidence and strengthens personal authority. The balance between clarity and power. Influence does not come from constant visibility or explanation. It comes from presence, composure, and consistency. When individuals maintain clear boundaries without excessive justification, they communicate self-respect. When they remain calm under pressure, they signal stability. When they choose their words carefully, they increase the impact of what they say. Power is not about controlling others. It is about controlling oneself. The authority of restraint. In a world where people constantly share, defend, and justify themselves, restraint stands out. The ability to act without seeking approval creates a sense of confidence that others recognize and respect. Explaining yourself is sometimes necessary, but explaining everything is costly. It exposes vulnerabilities, weakens boundaries, and shifts control away from you. Strength lies in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. You do not need to correct every misunderstanding. You do not need to defend every decision. You do not need universal approval. Those who move with clarity, confidence, and restraint often hold the greatest influence, not because they say more, but because they say only what matters. When you stop explaining, people stop negotiating your boundaries and start respecting your presence. Say less, stay calm, and let your silence speak. If this helped you, drop a comment below. If you want to be smarter every day, like and subscribe.